Welcome, everyone. My name is Dave Buchwald, and I am the founding partner of OneTeam Financial. We are a comprehensive, holistic planning firm whose focus is to really help pre-retirees and the retirement community keep together what they've worked so hard to put together. And our team of specialists collaborate to help our clients maximize their income while minimizing their taxes and protecting their families along the way. And we're privileged to have some of the leading subject matter experts in the country as part of our team. From wealth management professionals to retirement planning specialists that for a fee will design a tax-efficient written drawdown strategy with our wealth management professionals. We have tax strategy specialists that collaborate with that team, and we're privileged to have Ed Slott, considered America's IRA expert, published author, the creator of 4 PBS specials, as part of our team as well. We also have, with 10,000 baby boomers a day turning 65, we have a Social Security division as well, and our Social Security specialist was actually voted a couple years ago the leading Social Security advisor in the country, where he's helped literally thousands and thousands of people find hundreds of thousands of dollars that they were losing unknowingly and unnecessarily, simply because they didn't know the complex 2,700 rules that exist under the Social Security system. And there's over 567 just for a married couple. And on average, he usually finds about $100,000 to $300,000 of lost benefits and brings that back into our client's world. Imagine the impact that would have on your retirement, an extra $100,000 to $300,000 in retirement. We also are privileged to have some trust and estate attorneys and tax specialists that will put together a comprehensive estate plan to help our clients keep together for future generations what they've worked so hard to put together and not have it all go back to Uncle Sam. We have Medicare specialists, again, with 10,000 baby boomers a day turning 65 and in thirst for this knowledge on how to put a plan together for health care. And also, we're affiliated with a larger distribution channel, M Financial Group, which is widely considered the leading distribution channel in the country for life insurance and long-term care strategies. So M has the ability to get preferred pricing for our clients, where we can, so instead of paying retail, we can actually get wholesale pricing. And oftentimes, this can save our clients literally thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, today's focus is on the consequences that an extended care event can have not only on your retirement plans, but the people you swore to protect, your family. And we believe to ensure financial security in retirement must include a discussion of a plan that also looks at the foreseen as well as the unforeseen events that can happen, i.e. an extended care event. See, an extended care event is all-encompassing and life-changing, not only to the family member and the loved one that needs care, but also to those that he or she invited into their lives, their family. Because I firmly believe that if you do not have a plan in place that addresses the potential catastrophic consequences of an extended care event, then you really don't have a plan at all. You may just have someone managing your money, or you may just have keeping your finger crossed plan, or the hope and pray plan, as we like to joke around with our clients. But that's not a plan. So with me today is one of the leading experts in the country on the impact that an extended care event can have not only on your family, but your retirement plans, Harley Gordon. Harley's been practicing for over 40 years and is the founding member of the National Academy of Elder Care Attorneys, the foremost organization in the country dealing with issues on extended care and the impact that it can have on a family. He's been voted one of the top 10 most influential people in the country from Senior Market Advisor. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to my friend and colleague, and in my opinion, the leading expert in the country, Mr. Harley Gordon.
David.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure to have you.
Welcome, everyone. David had mentioned that I'm a founding member of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. That's a trade organization that dealt with working with families who had to make a placement in a skilled nursing facility. We call it Medicaid planning. And it's very important that you understand who came to see me, because it pretty much tracks what this presentation is and what David has been talking about. The average net worth of someone who came to see me to protect their assets because a loved one was being admitted to a nursing home was around $850,000, cold cash, no debt, not including their house. I routinely saw people with $1 to $2 million, and what they all shared in common is that they didn't have a plan. Many had financial advisors, and I'd ask the family if they knew, was the subject brought up proactively during a portfolio review? And for those who knew, the answer was no. No. There was no conversation about it. So families were totally unprepared for this type of event. So we're here to talk about not the subject of what happens to you, but the subject of extended care on your family. And that is exactly the title of this presentation, Protecting Your Most Important Assets, Your Family and Portfolio. So here's the agenda. Understanding that extended care is not a specific illness, like dementia or Parkinson's, that leads to a nursing home. That's what many people think it is. I want you to think about that for a moment, and I'll show you what I mean in a couple of slides. Absolute commitments require absolute plans. So if your commitment to your family is absolute, it must be kept at all stages of life, then you need to be prepared for unexpected events, in this case, an extended care event, and that requires a plan. And then finally, what pays for that plan? We'll take a look at that, and David will talk about subjects that deal with funding the plan. So the goals today, one, to give you insight into the serious, if not irreversible consequences a need for care has not on you, but those you've made a commitment to. Speak to the not often thought about consequences an extended care event has on your portfolio. Now, many people will tell David and other advisors that they can self-insure. They think it's an asset protection issue. It isn't. It's a cash flow issue. And of course, that's the goal of a retirement plan, to generate predictable streams of income. We'll show you what happens to that if you ever need care. And finally, explore the options to provide for those people you've spent a lifetime and have a commitment to. And we'll show you how to do that. So those are the goals. So living a long life could well be in your future. Planning for a chronic illness is absolutely a necessity. So I've been in practice for 40, 45 years. I don't want to deal with unreasonable people anymore. So reasonable people deeply believe they could live a long life. Reasonable people deeply believe that it's possible they could become frail and need care as they age. And let me stop here for a second. And in talking to David and other advisors, they tell me those are two of the biggest concerns that those in their 60s and 70s have. To live a long life and outlive their capital, and therefore outlive their income, and illness. So, I believe that reasonable people will take steps to protect those they love if they understand needing care could have serious, if not irreversible, consequences to them. That's what I believe. Now, having said that, I've had people tell me, well, what if I don't live a long life? None of my family lived past their 60s or 70s, which is interesting, by the way, because when they're talking about portfolios, they'll say to the advisor, let's stretch it out to 100. But you know something? I'll give it to you. What if I don't live a long life? Or what if I live a long life but never need care? No one in my family's ever needed care over an extended period of years. No argument, not going to argue with you. To which I've responded, you may not live a long life. Or even if you do, you may never need care. No discussion, no argument, I agree with you. But here's the point. Have you considered the serious, if not irreversible, consequences to those you invited into your life and promised to take care of absolutely? And that's what this presentation is about. So, many clients believe long-term care is a condition like Parkinson's or diabetes that eventually leads to a place like a nursing home. That's one of our first points we made on the agenda. My experience tells me that it's not, for the simple reason that many of my clients believe deeply that they'll never need care. What it is a life-changing event. So it's not a condition like Parkinson's or MS that leads to a nursing home. It's a life-changing event, not for you, but for those people that you care deeply about. And there are absolute consequences if it happens. So don't look at it as a condition, because frankly, you likely believe you'll never have that condition. And of course, nursing home, who's going to a nursing home? But when you look at a situation that has an impact on others, that I believe deserves your attention. So the need for care is caused by impairments. There are two. There's a physical impairment, which is a medical condition that can be managed with medicine and therapy but cannot be cured by either. Parkinson's, diabetes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease are examples. It could be a cognitive impairment, which is a marked decline in one's intellect to the extent that it's difficult to interact with one's environment and others. Both are severe conditions that have two sets of very difficult consequences attached to them. Take a moment to look at those impairments again, physical and cognitive. Here's what happens. The first set of consequences is to the emotional and physical well-being of those you love. It is severely impacted. Providing care to a chronically ill individual often makes healthy caregivers chronically ill. I'll repeat that. Providing care to a chronically ill individual often makes healthy caregivers chronically ill. There are some people in the audience right now shaking their heads because they've been through it. That's the nature of these illnesses. They're all consuming. It's a safety issue. It usually compels a child to put aside his or her life. What are the consequences to the child's commitment to work, to the family, to the spouse, and, just as important, the relationship with siblings, many of which won't step up? Pause is intentional. I want you to think about what I just put on the screen. The result, ladies and gentlemen, providing care rarely brings children together. It often tears them apart, causing irreversible consequences to your family. How serious is this? I've had families in my office where one child will not talk to his or her sibling. They'll actually tell me to tell their sibling to drop dead, if you will. Why? Because one of the siblings moved into the house to take care of their mother. The other child's wondering, why aren't you paying rent? Why am I paying rent? I'm taking care of our mother. It goes back and forth and back and forth. Now, am I suggesting this will happen to you? Not at all. This is not a presentation about risk. It's a presentation about consequences. For those of you in second marriages, the consequences are no less severe. I want you to take a moment to think about this. If you're in a second marriage, I'm in a second marriage. My wife has 4 children. I have 3 children. We have 1 together. Now, if I needed care, what would her children think about their mother failing, taking care of someone not their father? Think about that for a moment. Her kids want to know, why aren't my kids stepping up to take care of me? And what about assets? Generally in second marriages, assets are held separately. But what if the kids figure out that maybe their mother is spending whose money? Their money, taking care of someone not their father. That's how serious the subject is. Have I once mentioned it's going to happen to you? Have I mentioned any risk factors? No. Strictly consequences. You have to decide if these consequences are serious enough to take action. Now, the second consequence is financial. Paying for care requires a reallocation of cash flow, which has a serious impact on keeping essential commitments. Now, what are those? Providing for a child who's not made the best decisions. I used to do volunteer work at the local probate court in Massachusetts. And on occasion, I saw a couple in their 60s come in, sit down, and ask for information about filing for a guardianship for a minor child. So I asked who the child is, and it was usually the husband who hung his head and he said, it's our granddaughter or grandson. How old? 2 years old. Where's the mother? Where's your daughter? And on more than one occasion, they responded, she's dead. She overdosed. Where's the father? We don't know. Now, providing for a child is a lifetime effort. They're in their 60s. Imagine what that does to a retirement portfolio. Imagine what that does to their life. These are not discretionary expenses. 529 contributions to grandchildren's college funds. My former spouse and I have a commitment to our 3 children and their 5 grandchildren, and we make contributions. Is that discretionary to us? No. Charitable contributions are not discretionary. And then we have a second home. Now, these may be non-essential to some people, but to my clients and to David's clients, these are absolutely essential expenses. So the question is, how do you keep these expenses paid for if you're paying for care at the same time. That goes back to that first bullet. Paying for care requires a reallocation of cash flow. And look at the impact it has on these essential commitments. Now, can you use your own funds to pay for care? Many people are willing to use their own money for the simple reason that, pause intentional, they don't think they're going to need care. So why not? I'll spend all my money if it's necessary. So no argument again. You can cover the cost of care out of your pocket. But here's some things to consider. First, your portfolio is capital in nature. That's an important point. It's not an asset, it's capital. And the purpose of capital is to generate predictable streams of income. That's exactly what it does. So your retirement portfolio is a capital asset. Now watch what happens when you go into the capital to pay for your care. You have unnecessary taxes. You all know what appreciated assets are, stocks and bonds. If there's an estate plan, the idea is to pass the asset through the estate to get a free step up. But if you sell it to pay for your care, you created an unnecessary tax. Market timing. If you needed care in 2008, 2010, when the market was down 20 to 25, 30%, you would have actualized an unactualized loss. I've seen this happen with families, and they decided, by the way, not to sell, but to pay for care, because they did a cost analysis of what they would actualize in a loss versus what the cost of care would be. You see the situation it puts families in? They had no plan. Liquidity. I had two very successful businesses, but I had no liquidity. So if I needed care, where do I raise the money to pay for that care? Would I have to sell an asset? Was that asset generating predictable streams of income? And if so, I've now lost it. What are the taxes? Can I sell it? And perhaps just as important, every capital dollar that you spend on care is $1 less to generate future income. Now, when you talk to men who fully expect that they're going to die before their spouses, part of the plan is to make sure that spouse never has to turn to the children for assistance. Well, that comes from the portfolio continuing to generate predictable streams of income. But you've now reduced that portfolio, haven't you, by using that capital to pay for care. Pretty serious consequence. So, let me tell you what's at stake. I'll give you an example. Thomas and Ella are in their 60s, and they have $1,500,000 in retirement capital. Pretty good, by the way. Income, about $5,000 a month. Anticipated income from Social Security for the two of them, just under $6,000. So they're in for about $11,000, $120,000 a year. Look at their anticipated expenses. 529 programs, continuing to help a child who's not doing well financially. Educational vacations, contributions to charities. Pretty reasonable. By the way, they go to the advisor. Maybe they have to go into it $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year, but you know something? They're okay. But watch what happens. Ellen is diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. I don't know if you've ever heard of this disease, but it's early onset dementia. It's a combination of Parkinson's syndrome and dementia. Early onset, late 50s, early 60s. What's been allocated from both the retirement portfolio of $1.5 million and the income and Social Security of about $120,000 a year to pay for that care? What's been allocated from the retirement portfolio? Now, when I've presented this question to financial advisors, almost to a person, they've said, well, nothing. That's correct, because the portfolio was allocated what? To generate income, and the income was already spent. Imagine the surprise when I mention this. All of it. When you allocate nothing to pay for care, you've allocated all of it. And when this happens, the first person they want to see is me to try and protect those assets. Pretty serious. Now again, I'll mention, have I once talked to you about the statistics of needing care and what the cost is? No. Because the people I work with deeply believe they're not going to need care. That's why this presentation is so different. It focuses only on consequences. You have to make a decision if these consequences are serious enough to take action. So, in an effort to preserve his income and assets so he can keep his financial commitments, he provides the care himself, creating an unintended consequence that will end up devastating his children. His health starts to fail, to the point where a child has no choice but to step in and assist. What does that do to that child's relationship with her family and her siblings? Let me put it to you this way. When I've asked parents, particularly fathers, I've made the following statement: Tom, I can't imagine you ever want your kids involved with providing your care. And to a person, they say, no, it's none of their business. They have their lives. That's not what we raised them to do. To which I've replied, tell me what choice they'll have. And that's what happens when you have no plan. When there's no plan, there's chaos. So, stop for a moment. Once again, have I told any of you that you need care based on statistics? No. Have I quoted any statistics suggesting how expensive care is? No. That's because we're not focusing on the risk of what happens to you, but rather on the consequences of what happens to them. Now, if someone brought this to my attention and tried to tell me that at my age, it's just a matter of time till I end up needing care and end up in a nursing home, I think the only reason you're telling me this is to sell me a product. But if you told me about a situation that would cause my family harm, that's something I'd listen to. If you told me that my former spouse who never married, if she ever needed care, what the impact would be on our 3 children, that is something I'd want to listen to. You see the difference? And that talks about someone who has an absolute lifetime commitment to their family. Anything that concerns me, you're doing it to sell me a product. But anything that you talk about that affects my family is something I want to listen to. So, protecting those you love starts not with a product, but with a plan. And OneTeam is in the planning business. The plan is simple and it works. It's to keep you home, keep you safe, while mitigating the 2 sets of consequences endemic to a need for care. So remember the first consequence. Providing care causes emotional and physical problems. So we want to change the dynamics of your caregivers from providing your care to supervising the care. It's a big difference. And by doing so, you can stay home longer and better and preserve the well-being of your caregivers because they're no longer providing it. Now, if that plan's in place and my former spouse ever needed care, the plan would be to have one of the children, or perhaps all 3, supervise it, but they can continue with their lives. You see the difference if they had to actually step in, provide that care? And second consequence, what it does to the portfolio, you want a plan put together that allows you to pay for that professional care to come in while not going into the portfolio to pay for it, because you want to preserve the cash flow and you want to preserve the capital. That's the plan, simple, and it works. So here's a fascinating thought. When I've asked my clients, particularly healthy men, if they still believe the risk of needing care in their mind is essentially 0, every one of them answered, yeah. This drives women crazy. So for women out there, ask your husband if you think he's going to need care. You know, he's going, what are you talking about? But when I ask, why would you allow me to create a plan to protect those they love for an event they don't believe will happen, they answered to a person because they now understood the consequences to their families. The risk remains 0, but the consequences are now unacceptable at 100%. Someone once said that your health buys life insurance. No, it doesn't. Your conscience buys life insurance. Your health doesn't buy long-term care insurance. Your conscience does. See what we're doing? See what OneTeam is doing? Is bringing you back to why you got in the business of having a family in the first place. And for many of those families, that commitment is absolute. Anything that they bring to your attention that impacts the family, we believe is something you'll want to listen to. So let's look at a misunderstood funding source as we wrap up here, something called long-term care insurance, or nursing home insurance, or wet your pants insurance, whatever the hell it's called. It's just not something people want to talk about. I do. I want to show you what it really does. Many clients believe the product protects them by paying for care? My response is that it doesn't, for the simple reason that those same clients believe they're not going to need care. I suggest that the real importance of the product is strictly as a funding source for that plan. Let me show you. First consequence, watch how it's mitigated. The plan allows a family to hire professional caregivers. This allows them to supervise the care. The results? You stay home longer. Your spouse continues with their responsibilities and is far more likely to remain healthy. Absolutely. A child is not forced to put aside his or her life. I have 3 children with my first wife, and they are my oxygen. When I sat down with my former wife to discuss this, I said, this is not going to be put on the children, and she agreed. So she has a policy. Does it pay for her? Not really. It funds the plan that we put together to allow her to remain safe, at home, and let our kids continue with their life. You see that second bullet in the bottom? It's a second gift of life to your children. The first gift is to bring them into this life, and the second gift is to say it's not your responsibility to put that life aside to pay for care. As well, you keep the children together by keeping them apart. You keep those relationships solid because they're not stuck in a room with no windows and no doors and no way to get out to fight and argue and disagree over who's going to take care of her, where she's going to be taken care of, and who's going to pay for it. All done away with because you have a proper plan. And second, the second consequence is properly mitigated. Since the plan is properly funded with the policy, there's no need to divert income from the portfolio, therefore allowing you to keep essential commitments. There's no need to use capital, allowing you to continue to generate income. If the estate tax issues are up, there aren't any, because you don't have to liquidate assets that would receive a free step-up if it went through your estate. I don't know if any of you play blackjack, but you know what 1717 is, right? It's push. Winner doesn't win. I'm sorry, the dealer doesn't win, and you don't win. You know what? You know what this stuff is? It's push. The plan puts the family back in the same place they were in prior to the unexpected need for care. Think about that for a moment. That's how powerful the plan is, and that's how powerful this product is. So let's wrap up and return you to David, who wants to talk to you about the different kinds of policies to fund this plan. Thanks, everyone, for joining me.
Thank you, Harley. That was incredible. Amazing job as usual. Well, hopefully by now we can all see the potential consequences an extended care event can have on your 2 most important assets, your retirement and your family. Now, one of the greatest gifts that we've always said is to a family is one of the greatest gifts you can give your child is you bring them into the world. Well, the second greatest gift you can give to your child is let them live their lives. Because if you ask 100 retirees, do you want to be a burden? I think you're going to hear 100 answers. Of course not. Nobody wants to feel that way. But unfortunately, with people living so much longer today, that oftentimes ends up what's happening. So as Harley mentioned before, we're talking about funding a plan for long-term care. Well, there's 3 main options out there these days to fund a plan for long-term care. The first iteration of it was standalone long-term care insurance. And this is the lowest out-of-pocket cost initially to get the biggest pool of long-term care. And this was very popular, but some of the things that have happened over the last several years is with the prolonged low interest rate environment, we've actually seen premiums go up. So sometimes people are not too fond of that because the premiums are not guaranteed. It's almost like a use it or lose it proposition because you're going to have to pay premiums for the rest of your life, and potentially it can go up, but it is the lowest out-of-pocket cost. Now, the next 2 are the newest evolution of long-term care. We have what's called asset-based long-term care insurance, or hybrid plans, or linked benefits, or what they're commonly referred to it. And I explain it to our clients, that's more or less a simply repositioning of capital. So for people that have low income producing assets, i.e. bank accounts, CDs, bond portfolios, we can simply reposition a chunk of money for people that don't want to have ongoing premiums for the rest of their lives, and we simply move that chunk of money over to the insurance company. Now this has a different effect. You don't have to worry about ongoing premiums. It's a bigger chunk of money up front, but 3 things can happen with that. We refer to that as live, die, or quit. Well, if you decide to quit at some time in the future and you don't want the plan anymore, we'll give you back most of your money. Or, my favorite way, and hopefully this happens to all of us, we live a nice long life. And my plan on my 100th birthday is to check out on the 18th hole at the golf course. And hopefully things work out that way for everyone. But with that, then we'll essentially give all the money back to your loved ones. The people that you swore to protect, all the money that you put that in the plan, we'll give that back to your family in the form of a tax-free benefit. But suppose you live a long life. We know that can be costly, the potential to become frail in your elder years. This is where these plans shine, and we can get great leverage. And often clients that have put their head in the sand or decide to do nothing and want to take on the risks of an extended care event, so in other words, they self-insure, because no decision is really a decision to self-insure. They like these plans a lot because they have an exit strategy, their family will get the money, but they also get incredible leverage on the money that they put in. So if you were to transition, say, $100,000 into this plan, you would immediately get about a 3 to 4 times guaranteed tax-free pool of money that you transferred over. In your 80s, when you're more likely to need care, you may get a 7 to 8 times guaranteed tax-free rate of return. So again, for those that decide to self-insure or make no decision, this is a better, smarter way to do that. And then finally, the newest iteration is life insurance with long-term care benefits. Now, life insurance is particularly interesting under the tax code because it's a unique asset, and it's the only asset that is income and estate tax-free. So it can be a powerful planning tool as part of a comprehensive holistic plan. But unfortunately, life insurance is also considered one of the most neglected assets on clients' balance sheets. They buy it from their buddy, their friend, and they never quite look at it. Well, unfortunately, some of these programs have not performed due to the prolonged low interest rate environment that we've been stuck in for a while. So these things have underperformed. So now for those clients out there that own existing life insurance, we encourage you to review that asset class like you would anything else in your portfolio. Because oftentimes you can save money on those and you can add a long-term care rider as part of that plan to really maximize the benefits of that asset class that you have in your portfolio. So again, it comes back to, is your family and your retirement truly protected? So at this point, we often get a lot of questions, but the biggest one is, do you work with people like us? And the simple answer is, yes, we do. Our team is happy to work with you because I believe over my 35-year career that every family deserves to have security and peace of mind in their retirement years. And over the last 35 years, our team has worked collaboratively with pre-retirees and retirees just like you to get their whole financial house in order so they can live their best retirement with less worries and less stress and spend more time doing truly what's important to them. So at this point, for our virtual viewers out there that are quick with the trigger finger, we'd like to offer a special gift. So the first 3 people that sign up today, we are going to give a complimentary copy of Harley Gordon's book. It's called The Conversation, but it's helping someone you love plan for an extended care event. So we're going to give that out to the first 3 people that sign up. Now, we don't want to forget about everybody. Of course not. So the next steps for everyone else that really want to discuss your own personal situation and your personal plans on how to put a plan in place to protect your family and your retirement. And you like to talk about that offline and protect yourself from the potential catastrophic consequences an extended care event can cause, simply go to the next chat box and schedule a 30-minute complimentary consultation with our team. So at this point, we're going to wrap up. But I want you to picture a day in the future when you know that you've put a plan in place that's in your best interest, and it's all in line with fiduciary standards that protects your 2 most important assets, your retirement and the people you swore to protect, your family. And then I want you to picture a day in the future when you know your whole financial house is in order, that everything is working together, and it's not just a hodgepodge bunch of stuff that you've accumulated over the years, but it's working together in a comprehensive, holistic plan to protect you from the foreseen and unforeseen. And then finally, I want you to picture a day in the future when you come home at night, you lay your head on the pillow, and you know that the people you invited into your lives and that you swore to protect are all taken care of, and that your retirement dreams are safe and secure so you can enjoy your loved ones and enjoy a wonderful retirement. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a privilege, and we look forward to speaking to you.